Hey guys, welcome back. So the April 2026 monthly report for Star Citizen just dropped, and I figured we'd just go through it together. So let me just open it up and we'll see what's in it. Okay, so the first thing they talk about in this report is AI content, and this one is about how the narrative design team introduced tactical strike groups in April, which these are content drops with new characters and a staged mission progression, and apparently it came with some unique challenges like making sure the comm notifications triggered correctly, which yeah, that sounds annoying. So narrative design had to work alongside mission design to get it all functional, and they're saying they're eager for the community to start experiencing it. The team also supported a performance capture shoot for several other upcoming content drops, plus general NPC dialogue, and they tackled bugs around social areas and comm notifications for 4.8. Okay, and then they talk about AI features and tech. And this one is more on the technical side, so they began April with optimization work, like a refactor of the Hermit Cubic spline implementation for better performance. And a major performance offender was fixed in the version of the spline code used in cinematics. They're also replacing the brute force arc linear integration with something more reliable. And the navigation octree memory got optimized too. Then they spent time on flight AI, which this is the part I actually care about. So they're improving air-to-ground combat, like when targets are moving on a planet, whether that's a player, a turret, or a ground vehicle. They're also making jousting faster and more intense, close distance strafing and direction changes more prevalent, and providing better tactic selections and transitions. Fleeing and chasing are being improved, and so are formation interceptions. So AI dogfights should feel a lot different. For navlinks and pathfinding, they upgraded NPCs to traverse manual doors via control panels, and elevators, transit systems, and airlocks got improvements too. They also restructured melee data to be more modular, which means they can reuse the spatial limits in multiple aspects of NPC melee behavior. And the creature toolkit got progress, including how triggerable actions are handled. The Juvenile Valakar got ported to use the AI motive pattern, and they updated damage tracking and how worms submerge and emerge. And then for AI bugs, they fixed NPC ships staying glued to the surface of central asteroids and not responding to player aggression, which yeah, that's been annoying for a while. Okay, next up is animation. So they progressed with an upcoming creature, adding new actions and attacks and also improving existing data. And they're working on a super heavy armor set that carries a large full auto weapon, which honestly sounds sick. Facial animation was on set for a 2-day shoot with mocap and narrative, and as part of that, they captured new content for Recco Battaglia, who's returning to Levski with a new mission and 2 supporting characters, Isaac Kepler and Amir Lucas. They also captured new content for NPCs around Nyx, expanding the voice packs you'll hear in landing locations, and they closed out content for 4.8, which includes 2 new characters for a new mission. Okay, and then they talk about character art. So this team spent April on a new armor set and in-game rewards. They also continued supporting the Starware initiative and polished projects for 4.8. The concept art team explored a new gang and finalized handoff sheets for a new combat armor. Then they get into ships, which is a big section. So in the UK, they progressed with the Drake Ironclad and Ironclad Assault. Both passed their LOD0 review and moved into the final phase, and the command module got implemented, which you can see in the PTU on the Caterpillar. Progress also continued on other DefenseCon ships. The MISC Starlight passed its LOD0 review and had multiple playtests, plus revisions to its gameplay loop ahead of its final gate review. The Drake Pitbull has its final review scheduled for early May, so they're moving on to bug fixing. And other team members shifted to the Origin M80 to prep it for its LOD0 and final gate reviews. Also in early May, there's also an unannounced ship that passed LOD0, with its final review in early May. QA started testing it, ships fixed minor issues, and downstream teams finalized the bespoke VFX and SFX. Beyond the DefenseCon ships, the Gatak Raylan is moving toward its gray box review, with the team making sure all areas are at the same standard. And a second unannounced ship continued through white box, with more devs joining to block out the interior. And another unannounced ship passed its white box review, with ships working alongside mocap to make a amendments to the asset to suit custom enter and exit animations. Okay, then in North America, the ship's team continued moving an unannounced vehicle toward its Greybox Gate review in early May, and they progressed with the Drake Kraken. So having passed Whitebox last month, the ship moved into Greybox with special attention on optimization. And they have a quote here saying, with a ship this size, it's critical to ensure the time budget is being spent in the right places before it's too late. Which, yeah, makes sense for a ship that big. They also worked on integrating some of the bridge station and man turret concept work that was highlighted in this month's subscriber jump point. Okay, next is weapons. So last month, the weapons team finished the new Castec Arms plasma grenade and prepped it for release. They also did a polish pass on the Ultiflex Novia crossbow, updating some of the geometry to align with current weapon standards. Work also began on a new large caliber weapon, set scheduled for later in the year, while material polish passes continued on numerous existing weapons. Then they talk about community. So the team kicked April off with the March monthly report and prep work for Captains of Industry, and they announced the winners of the Stella Fortuna Good Luck Full Speed Respawn video contest. They have a quote here saying this year's submissions raised the bar and that they were blown away by the displays of skill and bravery from the community. Captains of Industry was the centerpiece of April. The team supported the event with a catch-all thread and a Q&A on the new MIS Hull B with answers from devs. They also updated the cargo guide to reflect the latest hauling vehicles, the Hull B and the Greycat UTV, and they refreshed the salvage and repair guide and the new player guide. The Bar Citizen World Tour continued in April with the team attending LVL Up Expo in Las Vegas and Gamebox in Herning, Denmark. They also teamed up with CLX to give away a high-end gaming PC, and they published a save the date for DefenseCon 2956. Throughout the month, they kept an eye on community sentiment across Spectrum, social media, and in-person events, tracking feedback and flagging key themes for the relevant teams, and they kept up with This Week in Star Citizen and the bi-weekly roadmap updates. Okay, and then they get into core gameplay. So in April, they supported various initiatives and focused on bug fixing for 4.8. They also worked on the last details of Ship Hangar Services T0 to get it live in 4.8. And they pulled a list of bugs from the inventory rework from QA and players and fixed as many of the critical ones as they could. For Refueling, they iterated to refine the gameplay experience and overall flow, with the goal of streamlining it, and they supported mission design on new missions. They're also working on an NPC refueling beacon, so players who get stranded can call for help, which is actually pretty smart. Vehicle component crafting also progressed, exposing a variety of new stats to the design team to modify as part of the crafting flow, and Starware is going well. The team is prepping for an internal demo showcasing character customization with various clothing and armor pieces. Then they get into mission design. So the mission team designed fundamental changes to the contract system. The first thing players will see is a limit on how many contracts you can have active at one time, and they say this first implementation will help fix exploits, but it's not the final version. More details on that later. The team also polished the Defend Location ship mission and balanced it for release, and they progressed with refueling missions, the FPS version of Defend Location, where you have competing objectives on harder difficulties, got feedback and is being polished. Tactical strike groups is also being finalized to make sure it works as intended and is fun to play, and they have a quote saying, "We are very excited for you to play this." Okay, next is narrative. So they began April wrapping up content for 4.8, and this involved several large-scale content drops, including tactical strike groups, mission text, and content for refueling missions, and introducing several new factions to support the new gameplay. The writers worked closely with the mission teams to generate scripts for April's capture session to pick up content for a familiar face, which no idea who they're talking about, but cool. Development continued on this Starchitect tool to incorporate narrative needs into the projection of outposts and characters, so assets are created in line with planet lore. And they had initial conversations about initiatives later in the year to anticipate what content could be captured sooner. Then they get into online technology, which is a big one. So in Montreal, the Live Tools team did improvements to the internal tools that keep operations running. There was a major focus on Hex, the player investigation and support platform, and they're working on a full visual and UX overhaul called Hex 4.0 that establishes a new design system for future development. They're also adding new capabilities for support staff. Then they spent time stabilizing Panic Switch, which is a recently launched tool for managing live service incidents. They fixed editing bugs, improved the dashboard, and migrated configuration data. For Bootstrap, the tool that helps devs run local environments, they finished user research interviews and journey mapping and are now moving into technical design for a full client revamp. Work also continued on error reporting with better crash report reliability and enriched data, including stream context, badge information, and severity levels. The whole team also contributed to ongoing maintenance across Hex, Bootstrap, and error reporting, fixing dozens of standalone bugs, and they unblocked the editor team by delivering Jira integration features for error reporting. Okay, then they talk about online services. So in April, they completed lazy inventory creation and inventory ID enforcement, which makes item and inventory systems more reliable. The social features pipeline advanced with chat actively in development, plus friends, online presence, and party viewer queued up. They continued supporting Mission System 1.0, addressing design requests around instanced operations, per cycle item limits, and contract advertisement behaviors. And work on a global database sharding service was completed, which is basically behind the scenes infrastructure scaling for a growing player count. They engaged with QA to build a tracking dashboard for long-term persistence bugs, which improves visibility and response speed for the live game. And early design and discovery work began on the crafting and refining systems. Then they talk about the network team. So they progressed with a system to manage how player persistent data like inventory and progression gets updated and preserved across versions and patches, so nothing is lost when the game evolves. A significant round of server meshing improvements was merged into the main game build, and these updates replace older components with newer, more capable ones. On the live game, they tracked down an out-of-memory crash affecting the replication layer's hybrid service. They deployed a hotfix and stability improved, but they're keeping an eye on it. And they're still working on a client disconnection error that some players have been experiencing. Okay, and then R&D. So in April, they made more changes to the shader compile server to improve robustness, latency, and throughput. And as a follow-up, the client-side communication with the remote shader compile server got cleaned up and optimized. Then focus shifted to improving the rendering quality of gas clouds. Support for ray jittering and non-linear stepping was added, and evaluation of cloud edge details was upgraded to minimize noise amplification when undersampling. These changes also revealed potential GPU performance gains, which they'll investigate in May. Then they get into tech animation. So throughout April, they continued to advance content across characters, creatures, armor, and the underlying pipeline. A major development was the work on new DNA heads. They're driving Gate 5 expression and polish passes on a large number of named characters across a broad range of identities and ethnicities. Two named characters, Amir Lucas and Isaac Kepler, had head rig feedback addressed and are now ready, and more heads got approved for submission. They also resolved head RC errors across the pipeline and fixed incorrect material IDs on two minor character head meshes. Work on reducing rig logic memory overhead is continuing in the background. Work on the Apex Sanvalakar continued, with the team rigging an entirely new mesh. Development of the super heavy combat suit materials progressed well. Blend space and animation support were validated and closed out. The Maya rig for the backpack is underway, and animation implementation and testing are in progress. They say this armor set will bring a new tier of combat physicality to PU players. Support for importing motion warp points alongside animation files in Maya was delivered, which helps helps animators on complex character interactions, and several RC errors on character and fish assets got resolved and approved for submission. And then last one is VFX. So they worked through major tasks for 4.8, like vehicles, including the Drake Ironclad, tactical strike groups, and the Castic Arms plasma grenade and Ultiflex Novia crossbow. And they also had some additional fire-related requests, which they say are always fun to do. Okay, so that's the April 2026 monthly report. Let me know what you're most looking forward to.